For nearly a decade, the name Osama bin Laden was a shadow that loomed over the United States and much of the world, a symbol of terror, loss, and unfinished justice. After the devastating attacks on September 11, 2001, a manhunt was launched, one that would span continents, cost lives, and test the limits of global intelligence. But it wasn't until a cold trail turned warm in 2010 that history began to shift. It began not with a direct sighting, but with a whisper. Intel about a trusted courier known to work closely with bin Laden. For years, the CIA had been trying to trace any lead, no matter how small. They knew bin Laden wouldn't use a phone. He wouldn't send emails. He lived in the shadows, but he had to communicate somehow. That courier, whose identity was painstakingly uncovered through interrogations, was the key. His name was Ibrahim Said Ahmed, and when U.S. intelligence found him, they followed him carefully until he led them to a quiet, suspicious compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. At first glance, the compound seemed unusual. Located near a military academy in a middle-class neighborhood, it was massive, nearly 8 times larger than the surrounding homes. It had high, barbed wire walls, security gates, and no internet or telephone connection. Most telling of all, its residents burned their trash rather than leaving it for collection. The CIA watched it closely for months. Inside, they saw a man who never stepped outside the high walls, never used a phone, never appeared on camera directly. They called him the Pacer. He was taller than others in the house. He walked with his hands behind his back. And slowly, confidence grew. This man might be Osama bin Laden. The weight of that possibility was enormous. If the intelligence was wrong, the consequences could be disastrous. But if it was right, it could change everything. By March 2011, President Obama was briefed in full. His team debated options: airstrikes, joint operations with Pakistan, or a covert raid. But only one option offered confirmation: boots on the ground. The operation was codenamed Neptune Spear. The team selected for the mission was the best of the best, Navy SEAL Team 6, also known as DevGru. Their identities were classified, their training brutal. These were men who had operated in the most dangerous parts of the world, and now they were training for a mission no one could know about, not even their families. A full-scale replica of the Abbottabad compound was built in the US, and for weeks the SEALs drilled every possible scenario: multiple entry points, hostage situations, unexpected resistance, and extraction under fire. They knew the compound inside and out, its layout, its defenses, its blind spots. Every second of the mission was rehearsed again and again. Failure wasn't an option. On the night of May 1st, 2011, under total secrecy, the mission began. 2 stealth-modified Black Hawk helicopters lifted off from a forward operating base in Afghanistan. Inside were 23 Navy SEALs, a translator, a tactical dog named Cairo, and 2 pilots. They flew low across the border into Pakistan, undetected by radar. No one outside a handful of top officials knew what was happening. As the helicopters approached the compound, the first sign of danger struck. One of the helicopters experienced a dangerous air vortex caused by the tight, walled-in environment and was forced to crash land inside the compound. No one was injured, but the noise shattered any hope of surprise. The team had to act fast. The Navy SEALs poured out, securing the perimeter and preparing for immediate entry. They breached the gates using explosives and stormed the compound in teams. The operation was surgical. On the first floor, they encountered 2 adult men. One of them, the courier they had tracked for months. Both were killed in a short exchange of fire. As the SEALs ascended the building floor by floor, they encountered more women and children, terrified and screaming. The SEALs were trained to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, using restraint where necessary. Their primary target was still ahead, on the top floor. It was there, in a sparsely furnished room, that they found him. Osama bin Laden. He was unarmed but not innocent. As they entered, he made a sudden movement, possibly toward a weapon or simply instinct. Within seconds, 2 shots rang out, one to the chest, one to the head. The team confirmed his identity quickly. They collected DNA samples, took photographs, and secured the body. Meanwhile, the rest of the team scoured the house for intelligence. They gathered hard drives, documents, handwritten notes, anything that could provide insight into Al-Qaeda's future plans. Knowing they couldn't risk leaving behind U.S. technology, the team planted explosives on the downed Black Hawk and detonated it. The explosion lit up the night sky, a signal that the mission was almost over. They boarded the backup helicopter and lifted off into the darkness. disappearing back across the border. The entire raid had taken just 38 minutes. Back in Washington, President Obama and his senior staff had watched the operation unfold from the Situation Room. When confirmation came through, Geronimo Iquiaye, the room remained silent. They understood the significance. They also understood the risks that had just been taken to make this moment possible. That night, the president addressed the world. "Justice has been done," he said. Crowds gathered at the White House, at Ground Zero, and across cities in America. There was celebration, but also reflection. The war on terror wasn't over. But a major chapter had closed. Bin Laden's body was flown to the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson, where it was washed, wrapped in a white sheet, and buried at sea in accordance with Islamic customs. No country was willing to accept his remains. The U.S. didn't want a grave that could become a shrine. In the aftermath of the raid, the intelligence gathered led to multiple follow-up operations across the globe. Bin Laden's network had been wounded, and though threats remained, the symbolism of that one night echoed across nations. To this day, many details of the mission remain classified. The identities of the men involved are mostly hidden, but they returned not for glory, but for duty, for the lives lost, for the promise that justice would one day be served. The hunt for Osama bin Laden wasn't just a military mission, it was the story of patience, courage, sacrifice, and the quiet determination to never give up in the face of evil.